The baby had stopped crying. In the dim glow of the nightlight, the crib was silent, too silent. The baby monitor emitted a low static hum, and in the middle of it all, the dog growled. Low, guttural, focused, outside the frame. Something slithered across the floorboards. Bruno had always been a calm, disciplined dog, a loyal German shepherd who rarely barked without reason. But for the past 2 days, his behavior had shifted. He refused to leave the nursery. He paced around the crib, ears raised, hackles bristling. He stared at the walls as if he could hear something moving behind them. He growled at empty corners. Sarah, the baby's mother, tried to soothe him. You're just being protective, boy. Nothing's here. But Bruno didn't calm. When she lifted him by the collar to pull him out of the room, he whimpered and turned back toward the crib, eyes filled with something between fear and defiance. Later that evening, while Sarah and her husband, Tom, stepped out to the backyard to take a call from his traveling parents, the baby, Liam, was left alone in his crib, but not really alone. Bruno sat under the crib like a soldier on guard duty. That's when the floor creaked, soft, deliberate, as if someone or something was moving beneath the house. Bruno's ears perked up instantly. He tilted his head, nose sniffing the air, then bolted upright, muscles tight. A faint hiss slithered through the stillness of the room. The baby monitor in the living room crackled with static. It should have been quiet, the kind of white noise that fades into background, but now it pulsed unnaturally, sharp bursts cutting through the silence. Then, just for a second, it went completely silent. The kind of silence that doesn't soothe, but suffocates. Bruno began barking, loud, aggressive, insistent, but not at the door or the window. He barked at the wooden floor just under the crib, paws digging into the boards. He growled, his body low, ready to strike. From the baby monitor, a low, unmistakable hiss emerged, wet, rhythmic, ancient. Liam stirred. In the backyard, Sarah paused mid-sentence. "Did you hear that?" she asked Tom. Inside, Bruno snarled, lunging at the shadow slithering across the nursery floor. It was no longer a question of if something was wrong. It had arrived, and it had come for the baby. The nursery was cloaked in soft darkness, illuminated only by the faint blue glow of a whale-shaped nightlight in the corner. Liam stirred in his crib, his tiny hands curling into fists, eyes fluttering without waking. The silence was broken only by Bruno's low, rumbling growl, deep, primal, protective. Then it appeared, a glistening shadow uncoiled near the baseboard heater, moving with fluidity that was not entirely natural. Its scales shimmered slightly in the low light, black with veins of sickly green. It wasn't large, barely 3 feet long, but there was something deeply wrong about it. Its eyes weren't the blank, cold dots of a normal snake. They were slit and somehow aware. Bruno positioned himself between the crib and the creature, teeth bared. His body trembled, not from fear, but fury. This wasn't the first time he had sensed it, but it was the first time it had shown itself. The snake paused, as if studying him. Then it raised its head slowly, its tongue flicking in and out, tasting the air. It moved in a curved pattern, deliberate, intelligent, as if measuring the distance between itself and the baby. Bruno lunged once, barking, his claws scraping the wooden floor. The snake hissed loudly, coiling tightly like a spring. And then it struck. But Bruno was faster. His jaws snapped shut inches from the snake's neck, missing only because the creature twisted midair with unnatural speed. It landed with a thud, sliding under the changing table. Bruno didn't hesitate. He charged, his bark now a savage roar echoing through the room. Liam woke and began to cry, his wails rising in pitch. The snake reemerged, slithering up the crib leg like a ribbon of death, its head now dangerously close to the child's exposed arm. Bruno leaped. His teeth sank into the serpent's midsection, shaking it violently. The snake let out a screeching hiss that didn't sound animal at all, more like a whisper from a place deep underground. It twisted in agony, biting into Bruno's ear, but the dog didn't let go. Not for a second. Outside, Sarah heard the baby cry. Inside, Bruno was fighting for his life, and for the baby's soul. By the time Sarah and Tom rushed into the house, they were already running, the baby's cries slicing through the silence like a siren. They burst through the nursery door expecting to find a fallen crib, maybe a hurt limb, a startled dog. What they found was worse. So much worse. The crib was intact. Liam was still crying, red-faced, arms flailing, unharmed but terrified. But the room around him told a story no one should ever have to witness. Blood streaked the floor in swirls and splatters. The changing table was knocked sideways, one leg cracked. The nightlight flickered weakly in the corner, and in the center of the chaos lay Bruno, limp, breathing shallow, jaw clenched tight around something still moving. Sarah screamed. Tom froze, unable to speak, unable to move. It was only when Bruno whimpered faintly that Tom snapped into action, rushing forward, calling the dog's name over and over. Bruno opened one eye. Weakly, still clamped in his teeth, was the blackened tail of the snake. Its body lifeless, its green ink veins now dull. But its mouth was torn open unnaturally wide, fangs protruding. It had tried to strike, tried to reach the child. But Bruno had intercepted it, and paid the price. A deep wound glistened on Bruno's neck. Another puncture on his side. The venom had gotten in. Sarah cradled Liam, crying softly now, kissed his forehead as if to convince herself he was truly alive. Tom crouched beside Bruno, whispering thanks, apologies, promises. They rushed him to the emergency vet. Hours later, the verdict: Bruno had survived, barely. His breathing stabilized. The venom had done damage, but his body had fought back, just like he had in that room. The vet removed the snake's remains from Bruno's mouth and paused. "This isn't a normal snake," he muttered. "Where do you live again?" "Back home." Sarah cleaned the nursery. Her hands trembled as she scrubbed blood from the wooden floor. But as she pulled the crib away from the wall, she froze. A small crack in the baseboard, a tunnel, deep dark, hollow. From within it, something hissed, faint, cold, echoing. Bruno had saved the baby, but something else had come through. And it wasn't finished. True loyalty speaks not in words, but in sacrifice. Sometimes the greatest protectors wear fur, not armor, and their instincts see what human eyes cannot. Trust the ones who sense danger in silence, and never ignore the warnings of those who would give everything to keep us safe.